In this week's PMQs, Rishi Sunak lied hard about the economy, was hypocritical about Scotland, and utterly dismantled his own asylum policy.
I'm pleased that the Right Honourable Gentleman brought up the OECD report. It made the point that actually, in the years following the pandemic, we're projected to have almost the highest growth amongst our peer countries.
Weapons-grade bullshit. You see, when I fact-check this stuff, I have to do research to find out what their lies are actually based on. And I couldn't. I even Googled UK, highest growth, OECD. Got nothing. What I did find was report after report showing the UK is set to have the lowest growth among OECD countries. And in fact, the OECD report itself says the UK economy is set to shrink by 0.4% next year. So the only way that what he's saying could possibly be true is if he's backdating it to 2020, when the UK had the deepest recession among G7 economies, which means he's including our recovery from the damage that occurred while he was Chancellor. And then he tries to avoid the blame by pointing the finger at Russia and COVID.
It was crystal clear that the challenges we face are completely international in nature.
I'll read you the report. Higher interest rates, elevated energy and food prices, and weak confidence are affecting the United Kingdom, where output is projected to contract by 0.4% next year. Now, the Bank of England said they increased interest rates because of high inflation, and the UK had the highest inflation in the G7. And the Bank of England recently confirmed that Brexit has been adding to the cost of food, so you can't just blame the war. And after the Supreme Court ruled today that Scotland can't have a referendum on leaving the UK without the UK government's permission,
when it comes to Scottish democracy, I'm pleased that the Scottish Government has one of the most powerful devolved assemblies anywhere in the world.
The sheer hypocrisy. He took us out of the EU by arguing that the UK Parliament didn't have enough sovereignty or freedom, even though clearly we were free to leave at any time. And now that officially Scotland doesn't have the freedom to leave at any time, he's saying, no, that's more than enough sovereignty for you. And on refugees.
1 year since 32 people lost their lives in the Channel. And does he concede that this would not have happened if there were safe and legal routes into the UK?
But that is why it is so vital that we break the cycle of criminal gangs that are exploiting people and trafficking them. And that's what the Home Secretary is focused on.
Let's listen to the Home Secretary.
Just a bit of role play. I'm a 16-year-old orphan from an East African country escaping a war zone. I'm not Syrian, I'm not Afghan, I'm not Ukrainian, not any of those specific schemes.
Well, if you are able to get to the UK, you are able to put in an application for asylum.
I would only enter the UK illegally then, wouldn't I?
Well, that would, if you put in your application for asylum upon arrival, that would be the process that you enter.
So Home Secretary Suella Braverman just admitted that the Tory failure to provide safe and legal routes for refugees is the reason why people have to cross the Channel quote-unquote illegally. They're the reason that smuggling gangs are doing so well. They're the reason that people are dying in the Channel.